Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today in the podcast. I want to talk to you about public speaking as a sales strategy. What I know is that the more we can speak in front of people and share our voice, share our content, the more opportunity we're going to create. This has been worth a lot to me in my business. And there's so many different ways to create a stage to speak on for your voice to be heard and received by people. Speaking is one of the most powerful strategies to get new people into your ecosystem, following you, paying attention on your email list, and ultimately to get new clients and new followers, new fans, new testimonials, all the different things. So much of it comes from speaking. And there's a lot of different stages. So the first thing I want to do is talk about the different stages. Some of them might seem more intimidating to you than others. And depending on where you're at, for some of you, you're like, heck yeah, get me up on stage, put 1,000 people in front of me. I'm ready. And for others of you, you might be thinking, oh, that sounds pretty scary. And there's an easier path for you. There's probably something for everyone here. So the first opportunity is the live stage. The live stage is for you to say, okay, cool, there's a conference going on here, or I've got an opportunity to speak in front of an audience at my church, or whatever it might be. If you can get on stage in front of a live audience and deliver a message, that's a really cool opportunity. It doesn't have to be the only way that we can public speak, though, to get our message out there and to receive more opportunities. A second way is to consider the virtual stage. The virtual stage is oftentimes significantly more accessible. It might be that there's a virtual conference that you can be a speaker at, and you can do it on Zoom from your home. It might be that you can speak at a telesummit. A telesummit is the sort of thing where a coach or a leader in the marketplace will put on a virtual event that's similar to a conference, but all the messages are pre-recorded by varying different speakers. The idea of a telesummit is one coach would organize this and put all the work together to bring the different speakers in. And if they bring in 15 different speakers speaking on 15 related topics for their ideal audience, each of these 15 people shares about the telesummit and promotes it to their email list, to their social media. They send messages out to their friends, whatever they want to do to invite people to the telesummit. And if 15 people do that, and that means that all the different speakers have access to the 14 other speakers besides them, email lists, social media lists, the people from their invitations who show up at the event. And so it means that everybody gets exposure to new people of a shared and similar audience. And of course, it elevates the person running the telesummit. The idea of running that to me sounds exhausting. It sounds really heavy. It's not necessarily something that I would find fun, at least not in this stage of my business. But for other people, they love it. They're really good at setting up that sort of thing and bringing people together and being the connector and being the kind of driver of this kind of event. For you, you might be more like me. Maybe you just love to be a speaker at a telesummit. I'm actually speaking at a telesummit this week. If you are listening to this message live, the week that it's released, there's a really cool telesummit that my friend Phil Card is putting on. Phil actually works at Faith2Influence. He helps us with our operations. He helps us with our marketing team. A lot of the stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see that is happening behind the scenes, you don't see because Phil's doing such a good job helping us stay organized operationally at Faith2Influence. And he's putting on a very cool telesummit called Growth-a-Palooza. And he's got, I think, 15 or 20 different speakers coming. They're amazing speakers. Some of them I know quite well, and I'm really excited to be sharing the stage with them. There's actually one speaker rumored to be coming, who I'm not going to say his name, because it's just a rumor that he's going to be speaking at this telesummit, but it is a big name. Somebody whose business is doing literally tens of millions of dollars, a huge name in the coaching and marketing space, and he might be speaking at the same telesummit. Pretty cool to be sharing the stage like that with him, with a pre-recorded message of something that I teach, something that I share. By the way, if you want to join Growth-a-Palooza, it's for new startup coaches and entrepreneurs, and it's really about launching and growing your coaching business. You can go to www.f2i, that's F the number 2, the letter I, F2I tribe, tribe.com/growth. www, the www is actually important in this case, www.f2itribe.com/growth. And you can join and be my guest at the telesummit. It's free. I love speaking, though, at things like this because there's so much value at a free event with a lot of speakers, and it gives me exposure. It introduces me to people I wouldn't otherwise know. So yeah, feel free to join us at the Growth-A-Palooza Telesummit, and also consider finding telesummits you could speak at in the future. I know that Phil was looking for speakers. I introduced him to several people in our mastermind for this specific telesummit that fit the criteria of who he was looking for. You could do some research online and say, what are some telesummits I could speak at? Where are some virtual conferences I could speak at? Or you can always create the stage by being the leader who creates the telesummit or creates the virtual conference. Another stage to consider is podcasting. You could, of course, launch your own podcast. We spoke about that in one of our recent episodes. You could guest speak on other people's podcasts. So similarly to the telesummit, you don't have to be the one running it. You don't have to be one putting all the work in behind the scenes. You can just show up and speak. And that's the same thing that you can do in other people's podcasts. I know that I don't really have guests on this podcast, at least not yet. Someday I'll probably have some guests on, but I like coming to you and just chatting with you directly because it's easy for me. It feels light and fun. It feels sustainable and something I can do over and over and over again, where the process of having a guest on feels a little bit heavier to me. So just like I recommend for you, ask yourself different components of your business. Does that sound fun to me, or does that sound heavy? And choose the things that sound fun. You're the only person who's going to be in your business and in your client base and in your program forever. So make sure you design something you like. So for me, I don't love having guests on as much as I love just speaking to you because it just feels lighter. It feels easier. It feels more fun to me. Other people, though, most podcasters, I'd say 90% of podcasters from what I've seen, love having guests on their show. And they're looking for more good guests. So if you started researching podcasts that have your ideal audience, you could begin to reach out to those people and ask for an opportunity to be a guest on their show. And that could create a lot of exposure to new people. You could also speak to other people's groups. So if you're a coach running a group program or a mastermind program, you might recognize that there are other coaches in the marketplace who serve a similar audience in a different way. And you might partner with them by being a guest speaker for their group. In fact, tonight I'm speaking to Ken Esch's mastermind about sales. I regularly partner with my friend Teresa McCloy. She is an amazing coach, and she teaches the real life process. And it's a process that she also has some turns of the dial on, some nuances on as a coaching process that she teaches other coaches to use as their framework for their coaching programs. So she teaches them how to facilitate, run, and lead their coaching program. She gives them all the content. She runs a program for what she calls her facilitators to make running a coaching group program really easy and light for them. Doing one-on-one coaching calls really easy and light. She gives them a curriculum. That's not something that I do at Faith2Influence. What I do is I teach people how to sell more. She's teaching coaches how to show up in a service-oriented way to have a massive impact on their audiences and their clients. What I'm teaching coaches how to do is acquire more clients through sales. So we work with the same audience, a lot of Christian coaches for both of us, and we do different things. And so Teresa invites me to come and speak to her group regularly. And I've been so grateful to have the opportunity to speak and teach sales to Teresa's amazing mastermind of like-minded clients. Likewise, we had her come and run a workshop for all of our clients on what she does so that they could receive her ideas. That gave us both exposure to new people that we wouldn't have otherwise been talking to. The next idea is workshops and webinars. Of course, you can create your own stage by doing that. We've got a podcast episode on how to do so. And then you could just do live videos. I mean, the interesting thing is in today's world, you can click play and do a live Facebook video. You can do a story. You can do a live YouTube video in an instant. TikTok, Instagram Reel, whatever it is, in an instant, you can be sharing. And that's something that can always create a stage for you. Short videos have the capacity to introduce you to new people more than most other speaking opportunities or most other social media strategies. And so if you're interested in meeting new people and getting exposure to new people and new audiences, you might consider YouTube Shorts. You might consider Reels. You might consider TikTok. I haven't engaged in that frontier yet, but we're probably going to get some of our videos up there at some point. These are places where people are looking to find new people to follow and new videos and new interests, new how-tos and things like that. So those are some ideas on how to identify the right stage. Next, I want to just share, what do you do when you have it? If you have the right stage, what are some important components of making sure you speak well? Well, each of these stages has different strategies. But what I'm going to tell you about in almost all of these cases, with the exception of maybe when you're being interviewed, if I'm going to speak, I think it's really valuable to have an opening heart story. If I'm going to give a speech, If I'm going to lead a workshop at the Telesummit I'm doing with Growthapalooza this weekend, I've got an opening heart story, and that engages my audience by calling them in. And through story, I'm able to share some vulnerability. I'm able to talk about some of my challenges, some of my fears, some of the things I faced that my audience can relate to, that my ideal client can relate to, that they're experiencing probably right now. And I can also share about how I overcame some of those challenges to get to where I'm at right now. Ideally, if our opening heart story is well aligned, our audience is listening to it and saying to themselves, wow, Justin is just like me, and I want to be a little bit more like him. We ought to be ordinary and extraordinary in our opening heart story. Ordinary in that we're just like them, facing the same challenges. Extraordinary in that we've overcome some of those things. It makes us relatable, and it makes us something that, and someone that people want to follow, they want to learn more from. Stories have captured people's attention since the beginning of time. And so that's how I like to begin. And then I want to teach great content. I like my message. Now, you might be an inspirational speaker, and maybe your goal is to inspire. My goal is to really teach. And I'm not going to hold anything back. I'm going to teach my best stuff whenever I get a chance to speak. And my hope is that as people hear some of my best content, and I'm not holding anything back, I'm generously sharing, serving, loving people with the content and the message. I'm giving meaty, implementable, actionable content. My hope is that people are going to say, wow, that's really good. I love that. I want more. And then they can take the next step, which brings me to the next piece that's important is when you have a chance to speak, you need to have a call to action. You need to have a simple way that people can take the next step with you. I'm going to come back to that in a second. And then we wrap up, ideally, with a closing heart story. So we have an opening heart story. I like to pre-frame the content of what's about to come after the opening heart story. Then we're going to have our heart or content of the speech where we're teaching something of great value. Don't hold anything back. Then we're going to have our offer or call to action. And we're going to wrap up with a final closing heart story or inspirational idea. That's a great way to craft your message and speak in a way that can create sales and create opportunity and open the door to more clients. So what are the different kinds of calls to actions? Well, there's all kinds of different calls to action that you can have when you're speaking, and the stage that you're on matters and it makes a difference. But we want to have something that people can do that is simple, and we want to ask them to do one thing at a time. So there might be an occasion where you're speaking and you're going to literally make your coaching offer from that stage, especially if it's your stage. And if you're running a workshop, you might just make your offer directly from that workshop. And maybe you have a link you're sharing in the chat of the Zoom, and people click the link and buy. And you're like, cool, if you want to do this, if you want to join us in this program, click this link and join us now. That's a great call to action. Or maybe the call to action isn't to click and join. Maybe it's to line up a sales call. If you're interested in learning more about this and discovering whether or not it's a fit for you, here's a link to sign up for a conversation. Or you could have just a lead magnet. A lead magnet is a landing page, a simple website that allows people to enter their email address and receive something from you. If you want to see an example of this, a very simple landing page, not impressive at all, is our landing page for our 10-step sales process. Very simple, but simple sometimes works. It's goodsalespdf.com. If you go to goodsalespdf.com, you're going to get to a very simple landing page that says you can have a free copy of our 10-step sales PDF, our 10-step sales process. We would love to give this to you. Enter your name and email address and click here and we'll email it to you. Well, isn't that nice? We give them a beautiful gift, this opportunity to have our sales process in a written form that can support their growth of their business. And now in exchange for that, they've gotten onto our email list. Now you need some probably additional technology for email and things like that. If that's not for you, the lead magnet idea, leave that behind. But if it is for you, if you're ready to get into some of the techie stuff, having an email lead magnet is a really nice way to own the traffic. Take somebody who's just heard you on social media or in a public speech or on somebody else's podcast or wherever it is, and bring them to an avenue where you own the traffic, where you can message them directly, where you don't have to worry about the Facebook algorithm showing them to you again, but you can actually connect with them, share ideas, share your podcast, make your next offer, invite them to the next step of the process now that they're on your email list. So that can be a great call to action. Something as simple as Click here and subscribe can be a great call to action on YouTube. You want subscribers. You can ask people to follow you on your social media page so they can see future posts and they can continue to engage with you. You also, though, with your call to action, losing my thought process here for a moment. Where was I going? You've got your call to action. Are there any other important ones? Are there any other important ones for you to know? I guess my brain's a little bit fried right now. That's okay. What I'll say is this: we just need to know what it is ahead of time. Oh, yes, this is what I was going to say. I've done call to actions that are so old school simple that they wouldn't impress you from a technological standpoint, but they're simple. If you don't feel like you're ready for the tech stuff, but you need a call to action and you don't have a calendar link, or maybe you're speaking publicly instead of online, or you don't have like a link for them to click and buy. Like, I've done things as simple and old school as saying like, hey, if you're interested in this, email me here or follow me on this social media site. Or crazy enough, in a controlled setting with few enough people that it was responsible, I've shared my phone number. I'm like, hey, if you're interested in this, text interested to this number. And I've let them text me, but I'm telling them what to do. I'm telling them how to take the next step. We might, on a social media video, like a YouTube short, we might say, hey, if you enjoyed this short video, receive more content like this by going to Sales Strategies for Christian Coaches and listening to our podcast. That's my call to action. But we want to be thoughtful about always, when we're speaking, inviting people to the next step and knowing exactly what that next step will be before we begin the speech. That's going to create a lot of opportunity. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thanks for listening and spending some time with me today. God bless you. I hope you have an amazing, amazing week, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Cheers.